This is your first introductory lesson to Unit 8. Unit 8 focuses on recruitment and selection. This first lesson will cover what you need to know for tasks AP1 and AM1. So AP1 asks you to explain how a large business recruits and selects, giving reasons for their processes, so the way in which they are recruiting. What's really important here is that you do choose a large organisation. You should be looking for organisations that have a lot and share a lot of information on their recruitment and selection process. I've given some examples in the presentation, for example, Tesco and Google and Nike, as they do share a lot of information in terms of how they recruit and select their staff. The second task is AM1, which is to analyse the different recruitment methods used in a selected business. What's important when you go through this presentation is that you look out for a little green box and a little blue box. Every slide that has the little green box in the top right hand corner will correspond to notes and knowledge that you need for your A1 part of your assignment. Anything with the turquoise will correspond to knowledge that you need for your A2 part of your assignment. Okay, so first of all, what is recruitment and what is selection? So recruitment is something that is completed by the Human Resources Department, and it describes the way in which a business will seek to hire the right person for a vacancy. A vacancy means any new job that is being offered by that organisation or a job role that needs to be filled. Businesses might choose to recruit staff for a number of different reasons. It could be because they are wanting to expand. For example, they were a national organisation and they are seeking to go international. They would then require many more staff to cover that international operation and would need to recruit a larger workforce to ensure that they can continue to work efficiently. Another reason why a business might choose to recruit is due to staff turnover. So that means that these are staff who are leaving that job either to go and work elsewhere or because they don't want to work for that organisation anymore. This could be, for example, because they are of pensionable age and that they aren't required to work anymore. It might be because their family circumstances have changed. It might be because somebody has become pregnant and that role needs to be filled. It could be because they don't like working in that organisation anymore. Another example could be seasonal fluctuations. So this means that there are parts of the year where some industries may need more staff or less staff. A good example of this is in the retail industry. At Christmas time, organisations are going to need more staff in order to cover for that demand. It is inevitable that during the Christmas period, businesses will see a huge increase in the number of products that they are selling, and therefore, in order to maintain their customer service levels, they need to make sure that they have enough staff to cover those responsibilities. Selection, on the other hand, describes how the business chooses the right candidate for that job role that they have a vacancy for. So this can be that they ask the candidate to write a CV and a covering letter in application to that role. Their CV would cover everything that they have done in the past in terms of work experience. It would cover their specific skills, and it would give a very clear indication of who they are as an individual and why they would be suited to that job role. It may be that the business goes a little bit further and reviews skills and aptitude tests sat by the candidate. So this could be maths tests or language tests, so that the business knows that they are able to complete the role that they're asking them to. It could be that they identify a number of candidates that they want to find out more information about, and they may use interviews. These can happen over the phone, they can happen over Skype, they can happen face-to-face, and they may go one step further and ask a candidate to do some psychometric testing. So essentially this will find out whether that candidate is the right type of personality, if they have the right type of ethos in order to fit in with that business's culture. Okay, so different types of recruitment. There are two main types of recruitment that you need to know about for your assignment. The first is internal. So this is when a business identifies and attracts employees who already work for the organisation to apply for a job vacancy. So for example, the CEO at the top there is saying that we are expanding and we need a new marketing manager to oversee our advertising in Europe. And a lady, Claire, who already works in marketing as a marketing supervisor, has applied for the role with the chance to be promoted, and it gives her the opportunity to work overseas. Businesses might advertise internally through sending out an email, through the intranet, on notice boards, or as part of a staff meeting. However, if a business wants to have a much larger pool of candidates to choose from, they will choose to advertise externally. This is when the business looks to fill the vacancy with a suitable applicant from outside of the business. So the HR manager, the person in charge of human resources, may choose different ways in which they want to advertise that vacancy. It could be that they post them on their own website, on a job site. It might be that they add the details and send them to a job centre. They might put an advertisement in a newspaper, or they might use a third-party recruitment company. Okay, so in terms of advantages and disadvantages of internal and external recruitment, what an advantage is of internal recruitment is that it is much cheaper and quicker to recruit, because a business is only looking to hire somebody from people that they already know within their own organisation. It won't cost them anything to advertise internally, and so for some businesses this may be the reason why they choose this method, because they want to cut down on their costs. It can also give them an opportunity to know more about the candidates that are applying for the job. They already are familiar with the business and how it operates, so they know that they are going to work well within that organisation. And it also provides a motivational tool, because they can suggest to individuals who are working very hard that they can be motivated in this way. Disadvantages of internal recruitment are that it can limit the number of potential applicants. There are no new ideas that are introduced from outside of the business. So because they are only hiring internally, it can limit their capacity for creativity. They might not be able to be as innovative, they might not be able to share as great ideas, and this is because they are relying on people who've already worked within their organisation. Some advantages of external recruitment, as I previously mentioned, are that they have a larger pool of candidates to choose from. So they may be seeking an individual with a specific skill set that their organisation doesn't currently have, and it allows them to find individuals who may have specific skills that the business needs. It can also mean that people have a wider range of experience because they've worked for a number of different organisations before moving to this new job role. Disadvantages can be that it is a much longer process. It is inevitably a lot more expensive because they have to pay for the advertisements that they put in newspapers. They have to ensure they curate the whole interview process. They may have to liaise with third-party recruitment websites and make sure that they are advertising in the most effective way that they can be. Okay, so traditional versus non-traditional methods of recruitment and advertising. So traditional methods are placing a job advertisement in a newspaper, providing details of any vacancies to your local job centre. It could be that you are using posters or bulletins to advertise a vacancy internally, or it could be that you are using third-party recruitment companies in order to seek the right candidate for the role that you have posted. There are some very interesting non-traditional methods that are currently being used by many of the larger organisations, such as artificial intelligence. There is a new robot called 10 Guy who is supposed to eliminate unconscious bias in the interview process. So essentially what this interviewer does is he or she can decide on the right candidate by just using questions as a technique. And it means that because they aren't a person, they don't have those emotions, they won't be biased in choosing somebody because of their appearance, for example, because of their race, because of their sexuality, which can be an unconscious bias that some interviewers may have and don't realise that they're passing on to their candidates. Businesses can also use job sites. This allows them to advertise to a much larger platform. They can advertise overseas for individuals looking for jobs. They may also utilise social media. So there is a platform called LinkedIn, which allows individuals to create their own profile and to essentially have it as their online CV. So it can be that businesses will seek them instead of them having to find them the job themselves. Businesses will also utilise social media to understand whether you are the right candidate for them. So it may be part of the selection process. So if you, for example, have some unsavoury or embarrassing things on your social media page, this can affect whether the business is going to choose you or not, and whether they feel as though they can trust you with the job that they have advertised. How does effective recruitment support business success? So, first of all, what does effective recruitment look like? What the organisation has to do is to make sure that they have written very clear and concise job descriptions, because the right candidates are not going to apply for your role if they don't know exactly what the role is. It needs to be clear, it needs to cover all of the responsibilities that they would have, what their day would look like on an average day if they were working in that organisation. They also have to have a very consistent interview process. So are they using the same process for every candidate that has applied? Are they shortlisting candidates, or are they interviewing them all? They also need to provide clear incentives for candidates, so something that demonstrates that this organisation would be a good place to work. If they are not showing that there is a benefit to working in this organisation, less people are going to apply for that role. They may also choose to approach passive candidates, so these are individuals who aren't actively seeking for a job. Instead, they might choose to link up with them on LinkedIn. They may seek them out by poaching them from rival organisations, which is an effective way to get somebody with the skills that your business needs. This process can help them to minimise recruitment bias so that they are choosing the right candidate for the right role, and they aren't discarding people for certain characteristics that might come across within an interview. So what does this look like then in terms of business success? So if we have recruited effectively as an organisation, it can mean that you get more talented staff before your competitors do. Inevitably, that makes you much more efficient. It makes you a much better place to work. It can mean that you are leaders in terms of innovation. It can mean that you have more skilled staff than your rivals, and that will impact on your ability to generate sales. It can save time and money on training. If you've recruited staff who already have the skills that are necessary within the vacancy that you have set as an organisation, then it means that you do not have to invest as much money in training them up in the way that you want them to complete their job. It also can lead to a lower staff turnover rate. So this means that less individuals are leaving your organisation to work somewhere else. And often turnover can be a very good reflection on how motivated staff are. The higher the turnover, the less motivated the staff are. The lower the turnover, the more motivated staff are working in your organisation. When you are writing about this in your assignment, you should use statistics and facts from your business to support how recruitment has allowed your business to be successful. For example, if you were writing about Apple, you might suggest that Apple has a very effective recruitment and selection process because they only have a 2% staff turnover. That suggests that people who work for Apple are very confident and motivated within their roles. It also suggests that they are not wanting to leave because they are seeking to find another job. You might also use evidence such as 70% of employees of Apple are promoted within 5 years. This can support the fact that they are not allowing employees to remain stagnant in their role, and they're supporting them to move up that career ladder, which can show that they've got a very effective recruitment process. Okay, so for the second part of your assignment, this is where I want you to do a little bit of work and some research. So in terms of recruiting, what you will need to do is to write about different types of recruitment methods and processes used by organisations. So you will need to write a description of each of those recruitment processes in the left-hand side of the table, as well as explaining what each document includes. You will then need to link that to the processes and documents that your specific business uses when recruiting staff. What I would suggest you do is you copy out this table in your notes, or you type it up and you complete notes based on your organisation and how your organisation recruits. Okay, for this second table, I want you to do the same thing. So in terms of selection processes, there are a number of different ways in which a business will choose the right one candidate from a whole pool of candidates. They may use assessment centres, so that means that they ask somebody to submit a CV and a covering letter, and then they will break down that pool of candidates into a smaller group that they think might be effective for the role. They will then invite them to come and complete tasks in a group. These tasks might be group tasks, they might be numerical tasks, they might be solving a problem, and they would rate them in terms of their performance on each task until they had found the right candidate for their job. They may use telephone interviews or face-to-face interviews. They might even ask you to complete psychometric testing. So this involves finding out about whether your personality traits will fit with the ethos and the culture of your organisation. Again, I'd like you to do your research in this part before completing your A2 piece of your coursework. Copy out the table, type up the notes, and make sure that you are reflecting on which of these selection processes your chosen organisation is using. Okay, so once you have reviewed this presentation and completed your notes, I would like you to start writing up your coursework. So please adhere to the following presentation rules. Make sure that it is very neatly presented and you are using each of these criteria when writing up your assignment. Some suggestions, as I mentioned already, of organisations that you could focus on in terms of recruitment processes. This isn't a definitive list, but what I would suggest beforehand is that you make sure that you do some research and see that you can find out enough information in order to write this assignment on recruitment and selection. So for your first task, this is labelled 1 to 6. There are 6 different pieces of work that you need to complete in writing your P1 and your M1. Please follow the instructions very carefully and use the bold and underlined words as subheadings in your writing. So you can see first what you have to do is choose a UK business that has over 250 employees in order to focus on your business that you're going to choose for this task. I want you to write a brief introduction, just giving some background to that business that you've chosen, and then you're going to start writing about what recruitment is, what selection is, and applying all of this knowledge back to how your business is recruiting and selecting. For the second part of the task, this is asking you to do some research on different recruitment and selection methods. You need to talk about each of these ones suggested in our lists in 1, 2, and 3, and you need to talk about which of these methods your business uses and why. Before you write this up, please complete your research and notes on slides 7 and 8 first, making sure that you follow the instructions carefully and using the bold and underlined words and subheadings in your writing. These 2 parts of your first task for Unit 8 are due on Friday the 20th of April. Please email an attachment to me at my school email address. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask and send me an email as well.